Hello, my name is Katrina Steele, and I am the president-elect of the Dysphagia Research Society. And it's a pleasure to be here today to talk to you about submitting abstracts to our 2024 DRS annual meeting, which will take place in Puerto Rico next March. On this slide, you can see a number of key dates that you need to keep in mind as you prepare and submit your abstracts. The abstract submission platform is already open, and it will stay open until midnight Central Time on September the 29th. You can expect to hear the results of our review in early November. And as you can see here, there are a couple of other really important dates to keep in mind. One is December 8th, which is the deadline for submitting mandatory disclosures, and I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. And then again, as we get closer to the meeting at the end of February, there's a deadline there where we'd like you to submit all of your electronic presentation materials to the DRS office in plenty of time so that we can get everything loaded and ensure a smooth delivery at the meeting. There will be two types of abstract-based presentations at the DRS meeting next year. First of all, there are oral presentations. These are each 8 minutes in length, followed by up to 4 minutes for questions. And we expect to accept somewhere between 40 and 50 abstracts for oral presentation. Of course, we will also have poster presentations, and this year we are expecting to accept somewhere between 120 and 200 posters. Something that's new this year that you need to be aware of is that we will be imposing limits on the number of presentations that can be delivered by the same presenting author. We will be limiting each presenting author to a maximum of 4 accepted abstracts, and this includes a maximum of up to 2 oral presentations and also a maximum of up to 2 poster presentations. These limits are being set to allow the opportunity for as many authors as possible to participate in the meeting, and also to allow those who are presenting some gaps in their schedule so that they can go around and enjoy other presentations and posters. So if you are somebody who has many abstracts that you want to submit, think carefully about which ones you would most like to present. And I recommend that you not submit more than a maximum of 5 or 6 abstracts for consideration, recognizing that the maximum that will be accepted is 4. Now, if you are a co-author on other abstracts, this does not count to your personal limit. So it's fine to be part of more than 4 abstracts as long as you are only the presenting author on a maximum of 4 that will be accepted. I'd like to talk here a little bit about our abstract review process so that you're familiar with the steps that we use. First of all, our review is blinded. We have a large pool of individuals who have agreed to act as reviewers, and we will be assigning 2 reviewers to each abstract. All of those reviewers must complete a conflict of interest disclosure for each abstract that they review. So if we assign them an abstract and they're reading it, even though they don't know who the authors are or where their work was completed, if they start to think that they might be in a conflict of interest, we ask them to disclose that, and we will then reassign that abstract to a different reviewer. All of the scoring of abstracts uses the 10-point scoring system that you can see here on the slide. Higher numbers indicate stronger scores, and you can see that those with the highest scores are likely to be invited for oral presentations, while those in the middle range are likely to be invited for posters, while those that score poorly at the bottom of the range are likely to be rejected. And there are 4 components that we ask the reviewers to score for each abstract. This begins with a section on the significance or the scientific merit of the work. and the degree to which it is contributing new and important information to the field. We then ask them to score how clearly the aims and the hypotheses or the research questions have been stated in the abstract. Third, we ask them to look carefully at the scientific methods of the abstract. Have these been clearly stated, and are they appropriate for addressing the research questions that were stated in the previous section? Here we ask them to pay attention to elements of rigor and transparency in scientific research. And finally, we ask them to look at the results and the conclusions of the abstract. Here we're looking at whether the data presented clearly and completely and in a logical fashion. When you submit your abstract, it's important to know that there is a word limit. It's actually a character limit of 2,400 characters, including spaces. So as you're preparing your abstract, I really strongly encourage you to use the review feature and the word count feature in your word processor to make sure that you are not going over that limit. The 4 sections of an abstract that we require you to fill in are a section on the study's purpose, a section on the study methods, and then to describe the results and the conclusions. And a really important point to emphasize here, that's highlighted on the slide, is that if you are submitting an abstract about work that is not yet complete, that is work that is still to be done or in progress, for which you don't yet have results, unfortunately, that kind of abstract will not be accepted at the meeting. We are looking for abstracts for work that is already finished, for which the analyses and the results are available at the time of abstract submission. In addition to the abstract itself, you're going to be asked to enter a learning objective. This does not count towards the 2,400 character limit. And the learning objectives are being collected in order to help us complete the submission for CEU approvals. And so we're going to ask you to follow the format for learning objectives that is specified by ASHA. This requires that you fill in the carrier phrase on the screen, reading after this presentation, learners will be able to do something. And in that space, when you fill it out, it's really important to use active or measurable verbs as outlined in Bloom's taxonomy. And if you need help with that, the link here on the screen sends you to a list of suitable verbs for inclusion in learning objectives. So now let's review a few of the rules that you need to know when you're submitting an abstract. First of all, when you submit an abstract, this confirms that all of the authors who are named in that abstract have agreed to it being submitted for presentation at the DRS annual meeting. The body of the abstract itself, however, must not identify the authors or the institutions where the work was conducted. This is absolutely critical to enable us to do blinded review. There is a separate section in the abstract platform where we ask you to provide all of the details regarding authors, but please be sure to keep that information out of the abstract itself. When you submit an abstract, this means that you are committing for one of the authors to attend the meeting and to deliver the presentation of the abstract as accepted. And the expenses that are associated with preparing, submitting, and presenting that abstract at the meeting are the responsibility of the authors and presenters. In the presentations that follow this one today, we will be going over a number of opportunities that DRS has for providing financial support or awards that may help defer some of the costs of coming to the meeting. Some more rules that you need to know are that your abstract must be both written and presented in English. And really important is that accepted abstracts will be published exactly as submitted. So it's your responsibility as the submitting author to make sure that the abstract is in perfect order, that there are no errors in spelling or grammar. Unfortunately, once accepted, we are unable to accept any corrections, edits, revisions, or updates to abstracts. Now, up until the deadline when the abstract submission site closes on September 29th, you can edit an abstract that you're building or one that you've already submitted. You can pull it back and change it up until midnight Central Time on September 29th. But once that deadline has passed, we cannot accept any more changes. On this slide are some more rules regarding submitting abstracts, starting with the fact that an abstract must be original work. And at the time of the abstract submission, that is by September 29th of this year, the abstract content must not be already published anywhere, either in print or online. Your abstract should be describing content that has not been previously presented at another meeting and is not accepted to be presented at another meeting that will happen before the DRS meeting in March. Now, it's quite possible that your abstract may be part of a project for which some results have already been previously reported or even published. And as long as your abstract is building on that previous work, extending it, and now providing new information, that's okay. But you cannot submit an abstract that is essentially a duplicate of information that has been presented or published elsewhere. Additionally, we will be asking authors to confirm that the study described in their abstract received review and approval from an appropriate ethics committee if the study involved collecting data from either human or animal subjects. So what will happen once we've finished our abstract review? So the submitting author of the abstract will receive an email communicating the decision of the review. And for those abstracts that are going to be invited for presentation, we will ask the submitting author to confirm that they are accepting that invitation. And once that has happened, another email will go out to all of the authors of the accepted abstract, explaining to them the instructions for submitting the mandatory disclosures. This is a really important piece, and we are going to set a deadline for receiving those mandatory disclosures, which will be December 8th, 2023. So if you are the submitting author for an abstract, we strongly advise you to notify all of your co-authors that this is going to happen. And when it does happen, that you follow up with them to make sure they've received the email about disclosures and that they complete and submit their disclosure by the deadline. Unfortunately, for abstracts where those disclosures have not been received by December the 8th, we will have to withdraw those abstracts from the program. And then a heads up to those of you that will be presenting at the meeting that we will also require you to include a disclosure slide or statement at the beginning of your presentation. And we will be sending a template and instructions for this at the time of abstract notification. So that concludes this overview of how to submit abstracts to the 2024 meeting. I look forward to answering your questions, and I really look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in Puerto Rico next March.